Revelation 13:8. One last time, I promise. John tells us this calls for wisdom. Let the person who has insight calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. That number is 666. I remember a time when I was younger when someone explained to me that the number 666 in Revelation stood for Nero Caesar. Even today, I don't think that's an irrational suggestion. In fact, most critical scholars of our day would argue as much. Nero was a persecutor of the early Christian movement, and his cruelty towards Christians was unmatched. Identifying the mad emperor as the beast isn't an unlikely choice. It was a reasoning that my friend gave that seemed off. He confidently suggested to me that John was writing in code. Again, that's not implausible. We talked last time about gematria, a form of assigning numeric values to letters, which again fits Nero, not to mention others. But why did John write in code? Here he asserted that John was attempting to protect himself and his readers from persecution lest the letters fall into Roman hands. It took some time, but I no longer think that view holds any water. Here's why. Throughout Revelation, John's been preparing his readers to faithfully endure persecution, not avoid it. Regarding his own circumstance, John was already in prison. The early church historian Tertullian wrote in 200 AD that John had initially faced persecution by being plunged into boiling oil in the Colosseum. He was only later isolated on Patmos because he had emerged from that ordeal unharmed. What else could they do to him? Now, if that's true, do you think he'd be so worried as to need to write in code? I mean, even if Tertullian's story is an embellishment, the other members of the 12 were martyred for their faith. It's hard to imagine John being particularly worried about his own future. I made the point earlier, had John simply said Nero is the beast, well, then we're done. Nero's dead, no more beast. But John's vision isn't merely a vision of the past, it's future oriented. The beast remains a future and even a potentially present reality. As I've suggested, the beast is a parody of Jesus. And Jesus is present and active in the world today, not merely awaiting the day of his return. So likewise, one might assume that the beast is also active today, not merely awaiting the final battle. And John invites us to calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, but it is not just one man. We read in Revelation 13:3, one of the heads of the beast seemed to have a fatal wound, but the fatal wound had been healed. Now, we talked about how that head may have referenced Nero, who was killed but rumored to come back to life. But again, he was just one of the many heads, not the head. As one commentator puts it, John's monster is bigger and more awful than any individual emperor, even one with Nero's reputation for tyranny. Michael Gorman's book, Reading Revelation Responsibly, Gorman remarked, at the literal level, the number 666 represents an imperial figure who in a very ungodly way pretends to be God. Gorman continued, although we should not be looking for a specific individual who is the prophesied Antichrist and is somehow associated with the number 666, we should always be ready to identify and disassociate from political powers that claim divine or quasi-divine status and demand total or even simply unquestioning allegiance. To sum it up, the beast is a kingdom of this world and all of its hatred and rebellion against the Lamb and his followers. We are challenged to recognize, to discern with the Spirit's wisdom, and to regularly set ourselves apart as citizens of another kingdom and subjects of another king. Have a great week.